Hello, hello, beautiful collective. It's your girl Mama T, and welcome to Conversations for the Collective. I am super excited for the guest that I have for you guys today. Her name is Zenobia Lenora Kindle-Davis. She is a licensed master social worker, but also she reads tarot and she's a channel, and she is just a very magnificent human being. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
How was your day?
It was good. It was good. I did a walk with a friend before I came because I'm a little nervous, and it was just really nice getting like the fresh air and just being out in nature. So I feel good.
Good, good. Okay. I just want to thank you for affirming that in me because you really were one of those people that, when I first started, that kind of made me believe in myself a little bit more than I did.
Oh, no, you were amazing. And I'm super picky. I'm just super, super picky about people. And I was just like, no, I like her. Like her content's consistent, her energy's consistent. And it was during a time where I really, really needed. I was in a rough space. And full circle, right? Like this is Spirit's way of like kind of getting me out of my cave. I haven't done any type of like interviews or anything since like my life just dramatically did this like 180. And so yeah, I mean here you are again, kind of getting me out of my cave.
Right, right. Collective. We gotta bring each other out. Okay, so we're gonna get right into this. First I just want to set the intention. We are having a conversation for the betterment of collective. I really believe that the best way for us to grow is through conversation. And like healing and all of those things I feel like are easily facilitated through conversation. And so that's kind of like my purpose for having these interviews. Um, so the first thing that I want to ask you, Miss Zenobia, is what led you to start creating content?
Oh, so two things. One was like working through this shyness or fear just surrounding myself and speaking about spirituality. I was in a spot where I was like, I don't know enough. But then I wasn't considering how so much of my life experiences showed that I did know enough. I may not have had all the textbook knowledge, right? I might not have been initiated into a tradition, but through life, I knew enough. And so it helped me build confidence. And then it also helped me like pass time with like trying to attract or build more clientele. And I was like, this is a way where I can do this and I don't feel like attracting people I have to mask for, you know?
Right, right, yeah. Well, and I think that's so potent, the mask thing, when you talk about that, because I feel like a lot of us wear a mask, and sometimes you don't even know you're wearing a mask. Like sometimes
Yeah.
it's that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And it's so funny to for me to hear you say that you were like not confident, because I think that's like what I love so much about your content, and what I love so much about like that's what drew me to you, is that you are so authentic and you can just feel it. And it's like you say whatever your spirit team says to you. And I love that, because some people are like scared to even say, like, I hear these things that are being said to me, and I feel like I'm being led to do this. Like, even that just terminology within itself is kind of taboo. So
Yes.
I always commend you for that. Like, because yeah, like I said, you really helped me understand that it was okay, like you said, like to be who you are, and like to just feel what you feel, hear what you hear, and just live in that. And that's so important. And so that goes kind of into my next question, which is the one thing I love about your platform is your vulnerability. And how are you able to do that on the internet?
Oh man. So one is the separation aspect, right? Like these are people that, I may or may not ever meet, but also that was the intention of the platform. I feel like coming from a social work background, being sometimes feeling stifled by like rules and laws and just all these different things. I was looking for an outlet where I could be that safe person and I could have a safe space, just sharing and honoring my truth. Because there were times where I wanted to say things to clients or I wanted to say things to patients when I was working at the hospital, but I couldn't, right? Like, hey, I think part of, why you're so rattled is because you're not using that creative energy. And so it's manifesting as bipolar disorder. Like, or, you may be depressed because you're picking up on everyone in the house and you're not doing some form of like cleansing or releasing, whether it's emotional or energetic, right? I couldn't say those things. And so TikTok primarily gave me that space where I get to say, hey, like you are normal. You are not common. You challenge the status quo, but that's exactly what you're here for and what you're supposed to do. And let me just share my experiences and maybe you can relate.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I've never heard a professional in that field speak that way. And I feel like you almost just like killed a little bit of me because like I feel that. Like I completely understand that space of I've been diagnosed bipolar, but I am an Aquarius sun and moon and a Capricorn rising. I have a lot of energy that it just goes like this in my brain. And so I
Yes.
understand that. I know where that comes from. Like, and I'm working to be able to deal with that without chemicals, putting
Yes.
chemicals in my body. But I love that. That's the space that I really didn't even know that's the space that you come from in like your professional life. That's really interesting because we need more people like you in that space, that speak that truth instead of just trying to get money out of everybody's pockets. It's like there's some stuff you don't need a pill for. There's some
Yeah.
stuff that you can just breathe in and breathe out and be present and work through. That's really cool. I really appreciate it about you.
Thank
um
you.
if there were no rules or boundaries and you had all the time and money and resources in the world, what would you create?
Oh my gosh. So I tried to like sit with the questions and like reflect, but there's just so many answers that come to each one. And this is one. Like if there were no rules and no boundaries, there's the two parts to me, right? So like you mentioned, I have Capricorn all throughout my chart. And so my mind immediately goes to changing the system.
Mhm.
Changing the system where workspaces treat energetic illnesses or like different things like that as serious as they do the others, right? Creating more being a part of the tables where we create more legislation to protect people who are spiritually gifted or energetically in tune, where they're not automatically, locked into a psych ward or forced to take certain medications, making them more a part of like partners in the conversation because sometimes you do really need it, but a lot of times you don't if you learn more about yourself and what you're working with or what is working on you, right?
Mhm.
That's my Capricorn answer. Now, this Leo rising Aquarius Pisces mix is like, I would just create. Like, I would just have a space where people can show up and, they don't have to book me for anything specific. It's just like, what do you need right now? Let's do that together. If you just want to, like, have a safe space to talk and we just make necklaces and bracelets, okay. If you want some breath work and, guided meditations for that day, okay. um, yeah,
That
that's
is
the
so
answer.
cool. That is such a good answer. I feel like um that you could do both in what you're doing right now. You know what I mean? Like with you like having that therapy background, like I feel like creative therapy is one of the most beautiful forms of therapy. That's all that honestly, that's all this is. This podcast is my outlet for creative therapy because I'm a talker. And so it's like easy for me to create in that way, because that's what Stuart leads you to do when you are an orator, you know what I mean? Um,
Yes.
but I really feel like I really didn't expect. I don't know what I expected out of this interview, but your answers are just blowing me away. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you are such a light. Like you are really truly just such a light. And that shows in the way that you just talk about the things that you want out of life and the things that you do in your life, you know what I mean? Um,
Thank you.
when I talk about that, that kind of pulls me to the next question because all of this very much shows how awake you are. And
Mhm.
so, do you remember when you first felt awake?
Woo! All right. So as a kid, I always had this like knowing, like I'm gonna create something that helps parents because they don't want to be bad parents. And then I remember just having this like big emotional experience and I was like walking down the street and I was like, maybe I'm going through this stuff to like help other people. That's how I'm going to take it, right? This was before I could fully see and hear. Um And like I remember somehow I just knew. And I didn't know how I knew. I seen my first spirit when I was like maybe 9 or so, but I never really seen him again. And I noticed my dreams would come true when I got like about 10, 11, but I never had anybody around me to like nurture it. So I kind of just dismissed it as life happened. But I remember this always like yearning for God, right? Like growing up Christian, I remember, and I believe this is the prayer that unlocked me, so to speak. But I
Mhm.
remember like just crying and being upset. And I was like, I know you can come and sit with me, and I know you can help me with these answers. Why aren't you doing it? Like talking to God or spirit. So when we talk about before I was fully awakened, there was always a part of me that just knew. I had no idea how I knew, but it was like that longing for a relationship with God, with spirit.
Okay. Okay, that's really interesting. So you started out like in the church?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. I know a lot of spiritual leaders. That's where a lot of us started. Is like in the church, and it's kind of like my mother-in-law says it's like it's where you connect to the spirit. And then, past that is like kind of where you start like sprouting out. So did your gifts like you've always had your gifts like they just kind of developed over time?
Yes, the more I learn about myself, the more I learn it was always there. It just wasn't like nurtured or developed. Like I remember being a kid and waking up from a dream, that like half sleep wake state. And I remember an ancestor talking to me in Spanish. I don't know Spanish. No one around me, well, no one who lived around me was Spanish, but having two grandmothers who have very like diverse just things going on, being from the South, being women from the South. And one grandmother specifically who was from Georgia, she is biracial. We don't know much about her mom, or at least I don't know much about her mom, but she is biracial. But like it always stuck with me, like, why Spanish? Of all the things, why Spanish? So like yeah, could always, but it wasn't nurtured. And I remember asking a pastor one time, like, just questions like, well, if God, you know, created everything and knows everything, why do we need an envelope? Because in the Lutheran church, that's how it was described. Like Jesus was the stamp or like the address on the envelope to get the message to God. And I'd be like, but that doesn't make sense. Like, and
Right.
he would get kind of like tense trying to answer my questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
That is
yeah.
so cool. That's so cool. I'm still trying to, no, not trying. I am on the path to unlock my sight. I know it's there because they've told me, but I have shamed it away for a long time because of fear. So I don't have the sight. I can hear, but I don't have the sight. And so I commend you for having that for your whole life because I cannot imagine. Like because the fear, that has I literally was like, no, do not come see me. I do not want to see you. Please stay dead. I don't want you to come back. I don't want to talk to you. And then when I started to get spiritual, I was like, oh crap, dang. I kind of was like, wash that, like wish that away. So I commend you for being able to do that your whole life because I cannot imagine like the weight that would like put on someone, especially when it's not nurtured. Like you said, you kind of felt like it was kind of shunned and like not really accepted. So it's like you just kind of had to hold this secret for so long, about yourself. And I can only imagine how that like affected you, like trying to grow up in spirituality itself, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Wow. And I mean, thank you for pointing that out because I didn't even, I never thought about that. I think most of the trauma I experienced was surrounding hearing, especially like having a grandmother who was paranoid schizophrenic. She was in the army, right?
Mhm.
And she had to leave the army because of, her crisis. And so a lot of the trauma was surrounding hearing, not necessarily sight. My dad used to joke about someone named George in the apartment when weird stuff would happen, and I think him kind of being like a goofball, he was a Cancer, right? So
Mhm.
him being the goof, it kind of like it took away some of the stigma for me. We never really dove into it, but thank you for pointing that out because I never
Yeah.
realized that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. what when we speak about your gifts and everything, you have to maintain some sort of like alignment every day, right? Like what are your like practices and staying like intentional and staying in alignment while you're trying to navigate?
Yeah, so I'm very intentional in that when I start my day, when I end my day, I try to make sure I do it either in some type of like quiet, or just something that's like decompressing or de-stressing, right? So I try to like if it's a movie, something nice, if it's music, something like uplifting, um, excuse me, or like, if it's people, I try not to answer certain calls or text messages if I know that they're going to be a little heavier.
Mhm.
Yeah, so and that's pretty much it. Like just starting my day with intention as far as like, what do you want to do today or talking to spirit, but more specifically just the quiet.
Yeah. Okay. I can feel that. I've had to recently learn how to be quiet. That was the one I'm still working on. I didn't realize that everybody doesn't have sound and noise and voices all the time. I didn't know that. And then I got older and I was like, oh, that's a neurodivergent thing. That's something that everybody doesn't experience. No wonder
Yeah.
everybody can sit down and I cannot. It's like you
Yeah.
don't realize certain things until you really start connecting with collective, and then you're like, oh wait, there are other people that experience this, but not everyone. Not everyone.
Yes. Yes.
um well, with your quiet, do you do like channeling, or like do you do yoga, or like is there any other kind of like practice that you do like daily or like weekly to like keep you?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing I try to stick to without becoming like rigid or religious is two things. Like I try to give myself time to like plan and stick to plans, but more importantly, I give myself time to just flow and not plan. Because being a person where so much of my life is surrounded by like time and routine, if I feel overly restricted by a schedule, I shut down a little bit. And so I'm intentional in like giving myself time to just explore. Um, Activity, like physical activity, is also very important with the grounding piece, but also with the feeling free. So, like me and the friend, we did a 3 or 4 mile walk. That walking is really, really important because it helps with that like freedom, that flow, that connecting, that recharging, releasing built up, stored up stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I
I
love that.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, look, no, you're fine. I love that you do that. Like you change, like kind of what you do, like depending on. That's so funny. Aquarius free. I love that about you. Like that's so cool. Like the Capricorn in me makes me do the same things over and over again because
It will.
structure. But I love that you're like, because some people I feel like could get burnt out on
Yeah.
doing like the same thing over and over again. So I feel like that's so important for you to say is like it's okay to like do yoga one day and take a walk the next day and like whatever you do that makes you feel good. So you basically just like however you feel, that's what you do.
Yes, and I feel like that is what helped my relationship with spirit because when I used to be more rigid, um, one, they would like push me out my comfort zone, right? But then I started learning like the more you go with flow and you listen to how you feel and what you need and you apply it to the moment instead of being rigid about it, the more you can work with spirit to get where you want to be. And sometimes you just stumble across the most random things that give you life, right? The most random conversations, even signs. And that helps, like, I would say it helps prevent or reduce the spiritual psychosis piece because if you're super rigid or you're always looking for signs, you're not living in the moment, right? You're not living in the present. But when you allow yourself space, not all the time, right? But
Mhm.
when you allow yourself space to just flow and do what feels good or feels natural, and sometimes, push yourself or challenge yourself a little bit, you'll get that encouragement or you'll get answers along the way.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy about this. That was so good. Like I just that because that just feels so good. Like you're right. Like whatever it is that feels good for your body is what's gonna feel good because that's when you're gonna meet the least resistance or the least resistance.
Yes.
Um, man, that's what my life's been about this year is going with the flow. That is a very daunting task for the
It
control
is.
freak within me, you know? Because I'm like, I know my plan's not the best plan. Like, obviously, like I get that. Like their plan's the best plan for me. But sometimes that comes with the letting go of the ego and letting go of, all of those sort of things that are a little bit tougher to just do when you say it's tough to do.
Yeah.
um uh oh, this is a good one. These questions I channeled for, so it's like I'm seeing them for the first time. Um what is your favorite part of this life journey?
The aha moments for sure. Because with the aha moments, when things are hard or difficult, they're a good motivator. And when things are fun or pleasant, it kind of helps you cement what you're learning. Um, so yeah, I would argue the aha moments.
Elaborate on what you mean by aha moment.
Oh my gosh, just some of the most random things. So like I'll be like, well, why? Like, why do you want me to call this person, right? Or why don't you want me to take this job? Or, why did I have this dream, right? And instead of like being frozen and not making a move, or just doing it because they tell me to do it, building this like beautiful relationship with them where we are working together as a team, right? And sometimes I will just walk into it. It just happened recently where I had a dream about a guy. Um, it was a very specific dream. And then once I met him, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the dream. And then I saw his apartment and I was like, oh my gosh, I saw his apartment almost a year before I even met him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like these aha, these like the confirmation that you're on the right track. And if they always tell us what to do, or if they always tell us we're doing right or wrong, we miss some of that like excitement, that wonder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely understand. I just wanted for everybody else
Yeah.
to, because
Yeah.
the when the spirit, when the synchronicities hit,
Yes.
yeah, when they hit, they hit, and it's something that you can't even explain other than like
Mhm.
exactly like you said, aha, because it's
Yeah.
just soul confirmation. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm here, I'm on the right path, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, everything's in alignment, it just feels good. The
Yes.
opposite of resistance, whatever the opposite of resistance, that's what that is, that's what that feels like.
Yes.
And I think that's one of my favorite parts of life too. I think just because it's nice to know that everything exists within self and there's nothing external. And I feel like that is like the biggest, like when you get those aha moments, it just reaffirms that, like, I knew this the whole time, which maybe that's the Aquarius stuff, I know,
Yeah, I know sign.
because
Yes.
I know, but it's just different when and then the spirit shows you that they know, and then it all kind of lines up because it's like, yeah. Um, if you have found it, because everybody doesn't find it, what would you say your mission or your purpose is here on this timeline?
You know what? I haven't found just one. It seems like it overlaps. So, like with my birth chart, I very much carry a crossroads chart where, like, I usually represent some type of like ending or beginning for someone, or them like crossing paths into a different section of their life, right? And so with that, sometimes I'm meeting people that need more validation, and so I become the validator. Other times I meet people and they just need to express and hear themselves. So then I become the soundboard. Sometimes, a person's afraid to take that next step spiritually. And, I let them know it's not all like wearing a black robe sitting in front of a cauldron in the moonlight. Like,
Right,
right.
yeah.
Like there's so many different ways and you could just be yourself while you explore. So yeah, I don't think it's one. I think it's just the energy that I carry, or the person that I am. I'm just meant to like meet people where they are and move accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Like an earth angel, like,
Yeah.
that's basically what you do. You're leading people on to the next step. I love that. I mean, I very much would say you did that for me, so I affirm.
Oh,
I love that. I love that you like do that for so many people because I feel like that is a blessing. Like it is a blessing. I know it's probably a curse sometimes too, but I'm sure that it's a blessing for you. The last question I have is that if you have a message for the world, um, what is it? And what do you think they need to hear right now?
It's really important to be present and be an active participant in your reality. Not letting your reality drag or dictate your flow to a certain extent. Like, there's a lot of rough things happening in the world, and there's a lot of beautiful things happening in the world. And the more you practice being neutral without being blah or like gray, the easier it is to flow throughout the changes of life.
Okay, okay. I want you to elaborate a little bit on that. Like, so are you saying it's easier if you don't remove yourself, but also you have to be able to just like go with the things that life's putting at you.
Yeah, like sometimes when these big painful shifts happen in the world, especially in the country, right? We
Mhm.
can unintentionally get kind of like sucked into that mindset or that energy, which can impact, healing journeys and just goals in general, right? A lesson I had to go through a couple times with spirit was like, if we told you how it would work out, you wouldn't have tried. Right. Because
Right.
sometimes I'll be like, well, you guided me to do this, and this like blew up in my face. What are we doing? Right.
Right, right.
Um, but then they said, like, literally, like, if we told you how it was going to work out, you wouldn't have tried. And then another experience will come along, whether days, months, years later. And I'm like, oh, I practiced for this. I practiced for this, right? So I had to learn how to not shut down when things didn't necessarily go my way, or if I saw something that I felt was like scary, things like that, right? I had to practice not shutting down, but I also had to practice not getting sucked into the bright lights, so to speak. I had
Yeah.
to practice like still being um, aware of myself and aware of my environment, even when things were at this extreme beautiful, because that can also throw you off track as far as like your goals, your healing work. And so the more I like took each experience with a little bit of neutrality, the
Mhm.
more I was able to like flow throughout life more effectively.
Okay, I like that. That's really an interesting take on that. I think that I resonate with that a lot. Like I feel like um it's really easy. I always talk about my astrology sign, but it's just truly who I am. It's really easy as an Aquarius to emotionally detach and just burn the bridge. It's over. It's done. And Spirit has. I like the way that you put that. I've practiced for this. I've already taken the pretest, so I'm ready for this new thing. And
Yes.
like I feel like if I that understanding, I'm so thankful that you brought that to me because that's very much yes, like you have to go through it to be able to know, to
Yes.
know for the next time because you would never have known if you would have just had the understanding you had before.
Yes.
And so that's so powerful. That's so powerful. I think that you're a very very powerful earth angel in this space and I am so thankful that our paths crossed because it was nothing but for spirit, you know what I mean?
Yes. No, when I say I genuinely and wholeheartedly, I adore you. Like watching your content, and I'm like, there she go again, all in my business. You know what I mean? And just this beautiful. You are just like this beautiful energy, this beautiful spirit. And you're absolutely gorgeous physically too. But like you just carry like this genuine nurturing energy that I think that I know the collective really needs, because sometimes people are nurturing with strings attached or with
Right.
expectations, right? And I think it's just you being who you naturally are. And I hope that it pours back into you tenfold because you really help give us like air and life and just hope and encouragement. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That is so nice to hear from you. That means so much coming from you because I do. You are one of the people that I look up to. I'm sorry, my thing. Like I kind of put that on my candle. Oh well, we're starting a fire in here. But you're one of the people like I look up to, and so that means everything coming from you. I feel so confident about the collective that is growing in the matrix that we're in. I truly do. And I feel like the more we have conversation, the more that it will just continue to link us together because I feel like so many people have such a negative outlook on social media. And I mean, I'm not saying that everything doesn't have two sides because there's two sides to every
Right.
coin, but I love the
Yes.
side that we're on, and I feel like it can be so expansive if we use it correctly. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy. I'm so excited to get this all together. I will send you a copy and everything before I post it out. But if you have any closing words or anything you'd like to say before we go.
Just keep going. Just keep going, keep doing it, keep going. You're doing great.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much for sharing your energy with me.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Beauty queen. So fierce with ancient wisdom like oak rings. Her vulnerability inspires me. Confident, charismatic, courage that would break anyone else. Good thing she thrives in just being herself. Her vibe is vibrance. So tangible it can be felt. Light so contagious it made me believe in myself. 129. A woman spiritually inclined. Divine. An intelligent individual who always speaks her mind. Aquarius women are the best earth angels to find. That was 129 by Mama T. Thank you guys for watching.